Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to my show. I had such a good time last night with some of the listeners and other hosts, so anyone who was there, I am so grateful to meet you. Today I'm trying to cover multiple topics, and we'll see what I get to. It's a bit more free form than I typically do, but I had said last time that I would try to talk about what happened to me on the Libertarian National Committee. If you're not familiar with what the Libertarian National Committee is, I know a lot of you listening are not libertarians yet. Notice I said yet because I'm very persistent. The Libertarian National Committee is the governing body of the National Libertarian Party, which is very similar to, I'm sure you've heard the phrases DNC and RNC. So similar thing, Democratic National Committee, Republican National Committee. So I was, and we'll get in a moment, I still consider myself to be, the national secretary for the Libertarian Party, therefore an officer on the Libertarian National Committee. And when I first started this program, I had let you guys know that I was in trouble with them. They were not happy with me. They were not happy with me because they thought I was an uppity woman with a vulgar mouth that I keep under control for radio purposes, though if you watch my YouTube channel, you'll see much more the unfiltered me. But what my language consisted of, what they had a big problem with, was not any performance of my official duties as secretary, such as taking minutes and the legal obligations that I have, or of any misbehavior at all in meetings. In fact, most people concede that I was one of the most professional people in meetings. What they didn't like was in my personal life, on my YouTube channel, on my social media. I criticized my fellow LNC members because I felt they were doing a bad job, to the point of corruption, which I backed up with proof, and in fact ended up getting proven right. And in the case I was proven right in, the chair, the national chair, had to resign in disgrace. Immediately after that resignation, they decided I was just too hot to handle because I criticized them, and we're not allowed to do that, apparently. So I was what was called suspended, which is a temporary removal from my position pending review. And we have a judicial committee that does such a review. Well, the judicial committee came back and turned out they're a little better than the Libertarian National Committee and affirmed the suspension. They affirmed it on some weird grounds that if I got into all of them, they wouldn't seem quite so terrible. I'll give them credit for that. They felt that they had to defer to the judgment of the LNC, which was their first mistake. But I want to show you some internal things about how politics work in political parties. But before I do that, I'm sure some of you are wondering, including fellow Libertarian Party members, is why are you airing our dirty laundry? You want to know why? Because the two big parties don't. I don't mean that they don't air our dirty laundry. They don't air their own. You cannot improve an organization if you do not know the problems with the organization. And my ultimate fealty is to liberty. And corruption and liberty, and corruption and bad performance of the governing body, they are not superior to my fealty to liberty. So I served liberty. And of course, criticism hurts feelings. I don't like being criticized. I'm a public figure. I get criticized all of the time. And you want to know what I say? I say, self, you signed up for that. If you don't like it, you could get out of public life. But apparently certain LNC members believe that criticism is harassment and abuse. Yet if that were true, that means the Libertarian Party has been harassing and abusing former President Trump for years now. because boy, did they have some spicy criticism of him. I believe all of the criticism was warranted, but I'm sure he didn't like being criticized. I can't even imagine the level of stress that the president of this country, even Biden, another one that I think every criticism of is warranted. Can you tell that I really just don't care for presidents at all? I'm sure they didn't like it either. So this is just absolutely abysmal coming from the party of principle. But I want to give you some inside baseball. But before I do that, and I know we will be coming up upon a break soon, I want to let you know that I also broadcast these shows live on my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. There is live chat during that. I also broadcast it on my Facebook feed. And if you put comments in live chat in support or not in support or questions or anything of the sort, I am more than happy to address them on the air. But I want to give you something, again, in Inside Baseball. One of the dissenting opinions, in my case, is from an OG Libertarian that she's just great. She is just absolutely great. And I want to read this because it is laughable. The LNC claims that her actions have resulted in members of the LNC being unable to engage in respectful and professional public discussion, making the committee dysfunctional for fear of bullying, harassment, and inaccurate characterizations to discredit and disrupt the committee's work. Is the LNC really saying that their secretary made LNC members so afraid of criticism in her social media that they could not function? If internal criticism on social media platforms that only LP insiders are likely to view is enough to cripple the LNC, then with all due respect to the considerable commitment of time, money, and effort its members have made, perhaps they should consider alternative service to the LP. Does the LNC really want us to believe that mean words are enough to paralyze them? If so, how do they expect to stand up to the state, which bolsters any criticism with retaliations of physical force? And haven't we seen this lately? I was watching the news with alarm the other day. Now, this is moving beyond the LNC for a moment to do some real-world application here. And in this real-world application, parents that were protesting and refusing school board mandates to mask and potentially vaccinate their kids. The discussion now is that we are going to label them domestic terrorists. You know, under the LNC's definition, it seems that that might be perfectly valid, doesn't it? I mean, they might just be in so fear of this dissidence, of this impudence, of this bullying, and attempts to discredit the school board's work that they just will not be able to educate children. This is the kind of nonsense that's going on in the national level of the Libertarian Party. Now, how can I say that and still be so loyal to the Libertarian Party? Because if I were, let's say, the DNC secretary, do you think I'd be able to still be saying all these things? Or do you think all of a sudden I would just happen to know something about Hillary Clinton and get suicided in the back of my head? I pretty much think I would no longer be around, literally, if I were the DNC secretary. So the fact that the secretary of the LNC is able to keep talking shows that there still is liberty in this party. Just because we have leaders right now who are terrible doesn't make the party terrible. And the fact that we still have leaders, I'm not the only one, who are willing to speak out and not scared and are willing to pay the ultimate price of loss of their position, means that the party is well worth saving. So we will be having our national convention in Reno, perfectly appropriate for libertarians if you ask me, where we will be electing an entirely new LNC. I will be rerunning for my position as secretary, but the entire LNC can be replaced, and at least 11 of them need to be. I'll talk to you guys about that afterwards to see how it goes, but my hopes are so high and positive for this party right now, because the LNC, even though it thinks it's the party, it's not the party. And we, the people, the actual libertarian delegates, are going to take out the trash. I promise them we are going to take out the trash. Speaking of conventions, and speaking of you not being a libertarian yet, if you believe in the things I've been talking about, why aren't you a libertarian? Now, if you actually are a Democrat or a Republican, more power to you. Stay in the party you belong in. But if you find yourself resounding with what I say, what is stopping you from registering in Colorado as a libertarian? I know some of you may be saying, I'm an independent. I'll talk about that after the break. Okay, everyone, we are coming back now, and I'm getting better at these breaks thing. I'm sure the producer is much happier with me. So, I had said that some of you may be resistant to registering libertarian, which you can do online, by the way, in Colorado. It's very easy. If you have any problem with it at all, just shoot me an email at pinkflameofliberty@gmail.com, and I'd be more than glad to assist you. But some say, and I hear this all the time, yeah, but I'm a registered independent. And you want to know what? I think that's a great first step to getting out of the corrupt two-party system. However, it doesn't send a clear signal. And a clear signal might as well be no signal at all. And the only thing that politicians understand are signals, usually through money, but registrations also make a difference. So let's say you were a Republican who believes that you didn't leave the Republican Party left you. I hear that quite a bit. So you register independent. You've just told the Republican Party you're not happy with them. True, you absolutely have. But you have not at all said in what way you're unhappy. And the same would fall true for Democrats. But I know the majority of the listeners here are more conservative. So you haven't given any kind of clear message to the Republican Party other than you don't like them. For all they know, you left the party because you all of a sudden turned into a big communist and you want more communism. All independent says is, wah, I'm not happy. It doesn't say how you aren't happy. If you are unhappy with the political party you are registered right now, then find the one that most closely resembles your views and register with that party. It doesn't stop you from voting for whatever candidate you want or not voting at all. But when you leave the Republican Party, if you don't agree with it and you happen to agree with libertarian principles, if you don't agree with libertarian principles, please stay where you're at. Okay? Just saying, we aren't the happy hunting ground of Republicans who are actually Republicans. But if you are actually a libertarian, join the party that reflects you, because you then will send the message that the way you're unhappy is you want less authoritarianism and more freedom. Now, speaking of conventions, I had let you know, and I'll be giving you all the inside baseball about the national convention that the Libertarian Party has. But the Libertarian Party of Colorado is having their state convention, and I would really love to see you there. And it's on a Saturday. I can do my show from the convention. Okay, I just came up with an idea. I hope Bucky is listening. But in any event, it's March 12th, and it's going to be out in Weld County. A beautiful piece of property out there that I'll be giving you more information on right now. I just want you to mark the date, and I also want you to mark another date. We have a provision that you have to be a registered Libertarian at least 90 days prior to our convention in order to vote at our convention. And you have to remain continuously registered as Libertarian for those 90 days. Those 90 days are up December 12th. So you have time. And you want to know what? If after those 90 days, if after going to the convention, you don't like it, you can always go back to whatever it was you were before. But I think you'll like it. I think you will taste real freedom and love it. And if some of the things I have said to you about a national party throwing out a whistleblower intrigues you, you could potentially be elected to become a delegate to our national convention if you're at our Colorado State Convention. Now, maybe not, because you'd be fairly new, but you never know. And I would love to see some of our listeners at that particular convention. But more on the inside baseball thing, and I see some people in chat are wanting me to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse. And that is another topic I did want to address. I think so many other people have addressed it very well that I am a little hesitant to, just because I want to add value. But I do plan on addressing it because some parts of it are just so vile that they need to be said. They need to be said a million times. Now, I wanted to just show you the games, the slippery games that bureaucrats play. And besides being a whistleblower, the real reason I was removed from the LNC is because I'm not a bureaucrat and I'm not a politician and I never will be. I never, ever, ever will be. I'm simply a volunteer with integrity. Oh, I did want to mention something I noticed in my notes here, where I said I was removed. I'm gonna tell you something that authoritarians hate. They hate you saying so. The delegates elected me to be their secretary, and I am still their secretary. I do not care. I have much stronger words for that on when I'm not quite so censored. I do not care what they have done. I don't recognize it. I will continue to do the duties of my job as best as I can. In fact, there's an LNC meeting tomorrow, and I intend upon doing the minutes. I know the LNC won't accept them as the official minutes, but do you think I care? Let me try. I'm trying to care. Hold on. Trying to care might take me slugging some Seagrams here. One sec. Nah, can't bring myself to care. So I'm still the secretary. That's why I still call myself the secretary. But I want to show you the games. I want to show you the games of bureaucrats. Okay. In the response to my appeal to our Judicial Committee, all of the people who wanted to throw me out signed off on a statement. And this statement says, the causes cited by the LNC are amply sufficient to justify the Secretary's suspension. It says the Secretary's conduct has had severe detrimental, oh boo-hoo, effects on the ability of the LNC to function as a collegial body. Let me tell you, the LNC has never functioned as a collegial body, and that's a good thing. There should be lively debate, and has materially damaged the interests of the party. Notice this now. Bureaucrats always think that criticizing them is the same as criticizing the organization. Politicians think if you criticize Congress or you criticize the president that you're dumping on America. No, you're not. You're not America. You're just bureaucrats. The LNC is not the party. I have not materially damaged the interests of the party. I am forwarding the interests of the party. But the fact that they think that they are the party is so arrogant that even if I were allowed to cuss, I have no cuss words sufficient for that kind of arrogance. They continue. Furthermore, the causes are severable. They did what prosecutors do. They threw every charge in the book at me, hoping one would stick. And that's just dirty to begin with. We protest generally when prosecutors do that. But the LNC had no problem doing that to me. And they continue, even if the Judicial Committee found all but one to be somehow flawed or insufficient, the result would be upholding the suspension. So their conclusory statement is, for these causes are severable. Just note that that was their argument, that the causes were severable. So the JC, which is our Judicial Committee, I don't want to use inside lingo, in affirming my suspension, says, the Secretary argues that the charges are not severable if any one of them is found to be not to be within the meaning of just cause or to have insufficient evidence, then the whole case fails and she must be reinstated. And yes, that was my argument, because they made the charges as a block. They made it as one big thing. They didn't separate them out. And it says the LNC argues that they are severable. If any one of them is found within the meaning of cause, then the Judicial Committee should affirm. LNC members voting for this motion thus indicate that they agree with all of the charges listed. Therefore, striking some of the charges should not and does not signify lack of support for the others. The charges are severable. Okay, let me show you what these bureaucrats have done. One of the charges against me has proven so politically toxic that many of them are trying to backpedal away from this charge. The mean words are force charge, which the Judicial Committee said had absolutely no merit, by the way. They're trying to backpedal away from that so much that they say that they couldn't have severed the charges. And voting for the motion didn't mean that they agreed with that. So they're trying to have it both ways. The very foundation of the decision to affirm my suspension is predicated on the fact that their vote meant they agreed with every single charge. If they don't agree with that statement from the Judicial Committee, then they have no decision against me. They can't have it both ways. But that's what they're trying to do. Look out for that kind of things. Look out for those kinds of things with any bureaucrat. I just gave that to you as an example of libertarian bureaucrats. But, I will be confronting them personally, and maybe, this is also going to be a Saturday. I think maybe my confrontation of the Libertarian National Committee will be my radio show. How about that? Would you like to hear that? Most people would, but I got to be careful because, again, I tend to cuss when I get around those folks. So the implications for free speech in this country. And another break. We will come back to that in Kyle Rittenhouse. Talk to you in a few. Okay, everyone, we are coming back in. I'm sure I'm not timing all of these coming back ins properly yet, but the producer can get with me on that. So we are going to now be talking about the implications for free speech, because this is the essence of political free speech. But the argument that's been made is that I wasn't just an ordinary member, I was an officer, and thereby limited my free speech. But this has come up elsewhere, and this is of interest to everybody other than libertarians. Let me read you from a publication called Education Week about some things that have happened. These decisions have not all yet been decided. These cases, let's say, have not all been decided. I will be reporting back on this, but let me read you 2 paragraphs. In the Round Rock Independent School District in Texas, a controversy over audience capacity limit for September school board meeting, in which extending a school mask mandate was on the agenda, led to an effort to censure 2 board members. The censure resolution cited disruptive actions, how dare they, by the 2 board members who questioned the need for the capacity limit in light of changes in state pandemic guidance. A state court has blocked the censure pending a November 29th hearing, which I will be following up on. Does that sound familiar? Because part of my whistleblowing against the LNC was the fact that they said virtually nothing. The Freedom Party said virtually nothing about what the state was doing to our rights because of a virus. Second, Oh, actually, there's a few more of these. Also, the Utah State Board of Education issued a letter of reprimand to board member Natalie Klein, citing a Facebook post in which she criticized an effort to make LGBTQ public school students feel more included at external religious lessons associated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Klein has also drawn criticism for accusing public schools of teaching critical race theory and referring to BLM as indoctrination. So she's in hot water for doing her due diligence, whether you agree with her opinion or not. She was elected to exercise it. Whether or not you agree with my opinions, I was elected to exercise them. And then, I'm never going to pronounce this right, Menominee, I think, area school district in Wisconsin censured a board member who had an expletive-laden outburst. That sounds more like me, except for I never curse at meetings. As the board debated back-to-school COVID-19 safety protocols, board member Jim Swanson, I think I'm going to get some of these people. Wouldn't that be great to interview them? I might get them on this show. Board member Jim Swanson, who apparently favored stronger protocols, pounded a table, used the F word, and waved his middle finger at the board chairman, according to a local TV station's news report. He later apologized, but it voted 5-4 in favor of the rebuke. I would actually like to have him on because I don't agree with his opinion, but I will fight to the death for his right to do that. And he should have been allowed to do that. Perhaps not expletives at a meeting, but some of these other ones, again, were on social media and things like this. Our free speech is being completely lost when you say that elected people cannot disagree with the majority. That is just tyranny of the majority. What is the point of having any minority voice at all? And here's the thing. Today, you might agree with the majority and not like the minority that's being shut up. There are plenty of people in the Libertarian Party who do not like me. So they're keeping their mouth shut because, we don't like her, so it's okay to persecute her. Well, times change, and the next person to be targeted may be someone you do agree with. There's that old saying that I'm going to mangle, but, it came out of the whole, Nazi time period that, I didn't speak up when they came for the Catholics, and I didn't speak up when they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak up when they came for the communists, or whatever it might be. But it always ends with, and when they came for me, there was no one left to speak up. That is why I always speak up. I will defend everybody's rights, and I have a reputation for doing that. So the free speech implications are absolutely crazy and insane. Now, speaking of free speech, this does lead right into the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. And again, I don't think I'm going to have terribly much to add to this. But the Libertarian Party of Kentucky had its Facebook account, I don't know if it's still removed, but it was censored for saying Kyle Rittenhouse did nothing wrong. That's what the courts found. And they were censored for saying that because it's not the popular opinion amongst certain groups. And that is insane that this is happening in the United States of America. Are we now America with a K? Are we now the People's Republic of America? And he's not the only one. There have been people censored from Twitter for saying the same thing. But it's more grievous when it's an actual political party that is speaking for a lot of people that gets censored on Facebook for saying something that is objectively true. But let's talk a little bit about some of this Kyle Rittenhouse thing. It was more the human emotion of it that got to me. People forget that Kyle is a kid. Whether or not you agree with him, my goodness, he is still a child. I mean, not a little baby in diapers, but to go after this kid the way the media has with all of its power is evil. Now, I obviously agree with the verdict. Absolutely agree with the verdict. And the arguments, he crossed state lines. Who cares? Are all of a sudden these Democrats, because it's mostly Democrats, who are in favor of the federal government taking over everything, are they now all of a sudden like into states' rights and that each state needs to be sovereign? Like, if that is the argument that they were making, okay, like, I still wouldn't agree with condemning Kyle, but hey, at least you're on the right path of localization and that the power should reside with the state and not the federal government. Like, do you even try to make your thoughts consistent? Who cares if he crossed state lines? It's wrong. It's wrong if it's 5 feet over some imaginary line in the sand. That was also completely ridiculous. And for those to say he went there looking for trouble, admits there was trouble. Yeah, I mean, he couldn't have found it, right? If it wasn't there to exist. So you're blaming this other person rather than the trouble itself. How is that any different than saying, that attractive lady who walked down that alley with that teeny tiny little skirt on, she was looking for it, wasn't she? Instead of blaming the rapist? I just cannot believe the inconsistencies of these arguments. And then other people will say it wasn't Kyle's beef. Like, it would have been fine if that was his community, or he lived there or whatever it might be, to be out trying to keep the peace. But you want to know something? That's not for anyone else but the people he was defending to say. Because I'm not, for instance, a strong person. By implication of their arguments, I'm not physically strong. I'm obviously more ethically strong than the Libertarian National Committee. But I'm not physically strong. So that means if I get in some kind of trouble where violence is around, I want people to come to my defense. And I have every right to that. And even if it's somebody from across state lines. Are you trying to say that I don't have the right to call up Kyle and say, hey, crap's going down, will you come help? You have the right to defend other people. Absolutely, you have the right to defend other people. It doesn't have to be your beef. As long as the people you are defending don't tell you we don't want your defense and actively, run you away. The fact that people are upset over this verdict, where, as we all know, all you got to do is change the races of the people and opinions would shift. And that is, to me, the definition of racism. What I loved was reading those posts on social media, and I loved the honesty of these progressives who said that they felt lied to by the media through omission because they just assumed that the people that Kyle shot were black. They just assumed that's what it was. Why should it matter? I'm a Christian. People are people. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what race you are. You are a valuable human being created in the image of God. But the fact that they were so honest to admit that that changed everything for them is really, really telling to me. Absolutely telling to me. So I am very, very glad that Kyle was acquitted. Now you see these people going, not guilty doesn't mean innocent. That's always been our court system. That's just the court system we have. You shouldn't have to prove you're innocent. The state has to prove you're guilty. They don't understand the foundational premises of our legal system. Now I'm going to say some arguments from Kyle's supporters that I think are horrible because, I'm an equal opportunity offender. They point out that the people he shot were bad people in ways that had nothing to do with the situation at hand, that one of them was a pedophile. I don't like pedophiles, quite obviously. I should think that would be quite obviously. In fact, that's one area in which, I could turn into a statist pretty quickly on issues of protecting children. And we'll talk about that more after the break. Give me your thoughts. Okay, everyone, we are back. And I love the comments that are coming through now, because this is a conversation I really want to engage in. And hopefully we'll have time enough to do this in this last segment. On the pedophilia issue, again, when it comes to children, I have a very knee-jerk emotional reaction where I will do almost anything to protect a child. So I understand that. That and people who abuse animals. Like, that's just like the grossest people in the world to me. Even grosser than, corrupt politicians. And that's saying a lot, because I absolutely detest corrupt politicians. So, I'm not saying the names unless I have permission in chat. So those of you who have made comments, I'm just going to say a listener, because I don't want to broadcast your name over the radio without your consent. But a listener had said their violent past is consistent with the violent behavior of that night. Indeed, that might be true. But is that an argument we should be making? Because the fact is, what if it was a nun? What if it was Mother Teresa that threatened Kyle? Now, I know she wouldn't have done this, being a pacifist, with a gun. Does that make it less defensible? And Kyle didn't know they were pedophiles. I wish there was a glowing, aura around pedophiles that we could all see them coming. But their past has no bearing on this case. Has no bearing on this case at all. What it does have bearing on is, what your personal sympathies might be for their deaths. Again, as a Christian, believing that all people are the image bearers of God, I mourn for the fact that they defiled the image of God within themselves. And I'm not terribly sad that they're gone. But I don't think saying Kyle was a hero because he shot a pedophile has any bearing on this. He didn't know that. He didn't know that. And we should all believe in paths to redemption. Unless he was actively abusing a child at that moment, it has nothing to do with it. And I really wish we wouldn't make those arguments. And I say that agreeing with you that pedophiles are detestable. And I think someone else had mentioned that he, I think the other person also had some kind of checkered past of spousal abuse or something. I hope I'm remembering correctly. And again, I would say the same thing, that it's absolutely irrelevant. Just like it's absolutely irrelevant the sexual past of the woman walking down the alley in the little short skirt that got raped. Let's say that the woman was coming off of a shift of being a prostitute. Does that matter? Does it make the rape more understandable? Because, just an hour before, she would have taken $20. Who cares? She still didn't consent to that. I understand the emotional argument. I also do understand the impulse that the left, making him out to be a hero, made his past relevant. I can't imagine the thoughts of his victims watching that. I hear you. I hear you. I can't imagine their thoughts as well. That must have been a re-traumatization that I cannot even imagine. But just because the left did something wrong, we need to be better. And again, I don't like really making this a left-right thing, though in this case, it most definitely was a left-right thing. I think we could have done it better. That's really the only point I'm making, that I think one reason why I didn't speak out perhaps as much as I should have, well, there's two reasons. as you guys know, I'm personally a pacifist. So gun issues and things such as that are not usually my primary issue. Corruption and things like that are. But also, inevitably, in these defense discussions, the pedophile thing would come up. And I just don't think that helped our argument. I believe with another commenter that this was just straight self-defense, period, end of story. But speaking of that, now I'm going back to the why aren't you a libertarian yet? If you are a libertarian who's in the Republican Party right now, why aren't you a libertarian yet? Why? Particularly if you are getting all lathered up over this Kyle case, which I think you should be. The Republican Party does not stand for your self-defense right. They do not. That coffee company, which was a Black Rifle, the Patriot Coffee Company, condemned Kyle. Why are you still associated with that? Let me tell you, the absolutely only party in this country that stands for self-defense and gun rights without exception is the Libertarian Party. And I'd like to read you our position on this. It says, the only legitimate use of force is in defense of individual rights, liberty, and justly acquired property against aggression. This right inheres in the individual who may agree to be aided by any other individual or group. We affirm the individual right recognized by the Second Amendment to keep and bear arms and oppose the prosecution of individuals for exercising their right of self-defense. Private property owners should be able to establish their own conditions regarding the presence of personal defense weapons on their own property. But here is the most important sentence to me. We oppose all laws at any level of government restricting, registering, or monitoring the ownership, manufacture, or transfer of firearms or ammunition. And when we say all laws, we mean all laws. Am I saying that I think you should be able to own a machine gun? Yeah, I am. Absolutely. I don't think you could be able to use it in a way where you couldn't make sure that you were not harming potentially innocent people, like you couldn't be shooting it off in a apartment building. But if you could be sure that you're only hitting an aggressor, why shouldn't you be able to have one? The government's allowed to have one. What makes them so special? We are the only party that does that. So for those of you who are big fans of President Trump, he did not uphold these rights of yours. He was fine with banning bump stocks. Come on. That's clown car material right there. So if this Kyle issue is important to you, the only party that just defended every single thing he did right there, aiding other people in their defense, and that right that he should have had to carry wherever, even if it's across state lines, is the Libertarian Party. So why aren't you part of it is what I have to say. For more information, I'd really, really encourage you to go and get involved with the Libertarian Party of Colorado. I am the state secretary of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. You can go to lpcolorado.org. That's also where you can find out more about our platform and our positions. I'm going to, in future episodes, start going over some of our unique positions because I would love to deal with any objections that there may be to these positions. So in the few remaining minutes that we have left, I want to do a quick ad for a book that might make a great holiday present for the young person in your life. It's a book written by Sean Dempsey. It's for the ages of about 4 and 10. Beautifully, beautifully illustrated. It's called The Tale of Two Brothers, and it gives freedom life lessons without being in your face obnoxious about it, to teach young people who are now being taught a culture of fear by our government that life is more than just having a pulse. Life is about living, and living involves risks. You cannot live in a bubble, and if you choose to, you can't selfishly insist that everyone else live in a bubble. And another thing, I'm going to make a proposition here that I'm not going to be able to expound upon today, at least much. There was an interesting question posed on Facebook, was that if these mandates that are now being proposed by Biden were proposed by Trump, would most Republicans have supported it? And most people are saying no. Why would you think that? The same people who are opposing vaccines today, saying they were too rushed, they got rushed under Trump's administration. And the left at that time said, no, we're not going to take the vaccine. And then the minute Biden wanted it, then they said they did. What makes you think the right would have been any better? It's my position that if all of these exact same things were ordered by Trump, most Republicans would have gone along with it. And I want you to really, really think about that when you start drawing your tribal lines in the sand. Are you about principle? Are you about freedom? Are you about integrity? Or are you about just the letter after someone's name? I think that is something that really seriously, very, very seriously needs to be considered. And I'm going to end with, again, giving you my email address. It is pinkflameofliberty@gmail.com. Also, I would encourage you to check out the rest of my YouTube content, which is at youtube.com/pinkflameofliberty. There'll be a lot of Libertarian Party history there, a lot of Libertarian in general philosophy there. And I always interact with commenters. So until next week, live free. I love you all. Mi guapas de libertad. Okay, guys, I am off air now, so I can talk with you freely. This time, we did a live call-in, and I liked that better than the pre-recorded that I usually do at 3 in the morning. But the funny thing is, I'm looking at myself right now. I look more tired now at 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon than I do at 3 in the morning. Let me check my text really quick because I might have a phone call I need to run to, but if I don't, I'll hang out for a little bit. Why isn't this working? I'm such a Luddite sometime. How do I get back to? Here we go. Okay, let me just text back that I guess we're not talking. 1 second. I guess we're not talking now. How about later tonight? Okay. Yeah, there's just some Libertarian stuff I need to do. Okay. I can only hang out for a few more minutes. But because... Oh, and I wanted to show you guys. The Libertarian Party of Colorado was selling these. It says the state sucks. And the back. Let me see if I can do this. Yeah. Vote Libertarian. So it's one of my favorite shirts. But I love when I go out with this shirt. You might have heard me say this earlier on my live stream on Facebook. People don't understand what the word state means. They see the word state and they think like Florida, Colorado, whatever. So they say to me, the state sucks. Which one? And I say, all of them. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So, again, thank you so much for the audience interaction. And I see that JJ said in the future I can identify him. So in the future I will. I didn't want to violate your privacy, Rochelle. You've consented to be on YouTube. You haven't consented to have your name over the air on a radio station in Colorado. So I'm big on consent. Okay, so you can drop me a line privately or in chat or whatever to let me know in the future if it's okay to use names. What else? I guess that's it for now. I'm going to do a short video after this one because I want it to stand alone, talking about something I'm going to be doing tomorrow. And I think that's it, unless there are some comments. And JJ, I have a question for you. You don't have to answer me now, but I would love to have you on to discuss your opinion of the Judicial Committee decision. You have some different opinions than I do on it, and different insights than I do on it. And I would love to hear your opinion of D. Frank Robinson's unique argument on suspension. I personally do not agree with his argument. He's claiming, I find it very difficult to follow. I think our bylaws are worded kind of weird, but I think it is pretty obvious that I forgot you're moving. There's no hurry on it. There's no hurry on it at all. I forgot you're moving. I wish you all the best with that. Let's see here if there's anything else. So JJ says, I would not support the mandate, but because it requires legislation. I'm going to get you registered Libertarian, dude. You're a Libertarian. You are. I'm sorry, not sorry. You're a Libertarian. And you can fool yourself if you want to. Let me see here. Francis Keys. I love this statement. Let me put this up here. I'm sorry I didn't see this when the show was going. Francis said, and this was talking about the pedophilia, blah, blah, blah. They just happen to have a bad past. The only heroic thing Kyle did was washing graffiti, rendering aid, etc. Self-defense is something else entirely. It's absolutely unfortunate. It is unfortunate when you have to take someone's life. I agree with you. And I have to walk back my own rhetoric about that. Well, thank you for considering that. Okay. And I think I got all of the comments. And let's go, Brandon. I know what I want to close with. Two things, actually. And you guys know that means she's going to be talking for another hour. I'm going to do an outreach booth tonight in Castle Rock. For some reason, and I'm caught up in it too, we have this star that's above the rock that is the Castle Rock. It's a rock that allegedly looks like a castle. To me, it looks more like a whale, but they say it looks like a castle. And there's a star up there that's up there all year, but it's only lit from a certain day through, I think, January 1st. And we have the biggest celebration, so everyone could look up at the top of this hill at the rock to go, ooh, when the stars lit up. It's an excuse to get out and drink. The problem is, every single time it's been freezing cold, and it is freezing cold. So I'm going to dress a lot warmer. But the LP of Colorado will have an outreach booth. Wayne is there setting it up now. So hopefully we will sign up some Libertarians. This will not surprise you, but I do not like staying put at a booth. And if we have enough volunteers, what I do is grab one of our more controversial signs and just walk around with it, triggering people and starting up conversations. I find that's more effective. Some people won't walk up to a political booth, but they will walk up to somebody who's carrying report your neighbors, dial 1-800 I'm a Nazi sign. Or, there's all kinds of interest. Or taxation with representation sucks too. Things such like that. People will walk up and have a conversation with you. So I hope to be able to be walking around with a sign. I'll have to pick out the one that's most appropriate for this crowd. We never were big mandate people here in Castle Rock, so the I'm a Nazi one probably won't be as effective here. But the taxation without representation sucks too will probably be pretty effective. I'll have to see what other signs that we have. I think I have one also that says taxes are revolting. Why aren't you? I think that would go over well as well. And the funny thing about that is a bumper sticker that was put out by the National Party. Arguably, that is advocating violence. Oof, did the Libertarian Party just violate the NAP? Now, I can make the argument against how it's not, because it's not initiating it. The taxes were the initiating. But it seems to be advocating violent revolt against the government. Just saying. I didn't make up that saying. I got it from a historical bumper sticker that was on the filing cabinet that was in National Headquarters. It doesn't look like I'm going to be having any kind of conversation with anyone right now, which is good because I got to get the birds ready. I got to go. So I know, yeah, JJ, that's the argument I would make as well. I'm just playing devil's advocate here, because the definitions have been so expanded. So I'm going to be doing a quick announcement show right after I end this one. So, and I would appreciate comments then too. So I'm going to take about a 5-minute break. I'm going to be coming back on to do an announcement about something I'm doing tomorrow. I want to do that separately from this show since it's so long and people will miss it. I want the announcement just to be the announcement. Oh, wait. Hold on. I might not be able to do that. I got to find my old lady glasses. Okay. All right, guys. I will talk to you later.